I'm Marlow Wyatt, playwright of She. Learn more about my interview and watch this sneak preview right now. I fell in love with theater when I was introduced to theater when I was a junior in high school. And I remember I needed an elective for classes or whatever. And I was just like, I'll just take this drama class. And so just like everybody else, you take the drama class, and my teacher's name was Mr. Good. I remember him very well. And he was basically, he kind of encouraged me to act. And that was the first time I had read a play. I think we were doing, like, I had to read for Glass Menagerie. And I didn't know what that was. I was on the speech and debate team. And so we would go to these competitions, and I would read, just different narratives for different categories in speech and debate. And I was naturally very good at it. But when I had the opportunity to get on stage and create a character and then go see theater, I mean, I remember I was in grade school, and they would bus us to the high schools, to local high schools, to see the different plays. And so, theater is magical to me. And so it kind of changed my life. But I never thought that I would love it as much as I do. I never thought that I would be writing. I never thought that I would be a playwright. I just thought, okay, I'm going to act. And, I didn't realize the impact that theater can have on somebody's life. And I didn't realize the impact that it had on my life. And I think it's very important, and I think it's political, it's social, it's inspiring. It's just so much. It's so magical, and it's one of the best collaborations you can do. And especially in a world now where everything is virtual, it's something about being in a room with a group of people and having that live, that visceral, that connection with somebody else, which is, which affects you. The lights affect you. The set affects you, the costumes affects you, the period affects you, all of that kind of stuff. And you're sitting there for 2 hours in this dark room, and then boom, lights come up, and you're taken to a whole nother world. So for me, theater is magical, and I love it. I've worked in, I just love it. I don't know why. I connect to it. It fuels me. When I first fell in love with writing, or started writing, was about 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And it came upon me. It was kind of twofold. There was two things. I was a working actor here, going out on auditions. And at that time, there wasn't anything for me, anything of substance, just generic characters that didn't have any layers, and that didn't reflect the life that I knew and the life of other people that I knew. And so a friend of mine got a television series, and she was teaching acting at this conservatory for young kids. And she goes, "Oh, teach my acting class." And I go, "Okay." That turned into, at the end of the session for those acting classes, they did a showcase where they had to do either scenes or things like that. And so I started writing the scenes for them at the end, because I was over that, and I was like, oh, I got to write something for these kids. And so, to show what they did in acting class. So I started writing things for them, and then I was asked to direct the entire end of the session program. And so I just started writing for them, and people were calling, and they were like, "This is amazing." And I was like, "Oh, so I kind of got it a little bit then, but I was doing it for kids. So I didn't, I was just like, oh, let me write this little skit for them, or let me write this scene for them to show what they learned. And so I would get called a lot about, oh, you should write. My friends would always say, you should write that down. It's funny. And I was like, I'm not writing, I'm going to be acting. That's, I was in that zone. And because I had just moved from New York, and I worked in New York off Broadway and things like that. So I decided to kind of hone my skills because I'm not a trained playwright, meaning I don't have a degree in it. I didn't go. So I went to, somebody had told me about this playwrights lab at the Roby Theater Company, which is where the Latino Theater Company, they are housed in the same building. And I started learning how to construct plays, and you know, I already had kind of a head start because I'm an actor, so I know how to deconstruct plays for the characters, but to actually put something together and create, that was a whole nother thing. And so I just wanted to create, I was like, we live in such a great world, and I was just really surprised at the number of plays that are not reflective of the world that we live in. And the characters that I grew up with, meaning the people in my neighborhood, you know, I guess we're all in a sense characters. And I'm like, well, where is Baby Joe? And where is da-da-da-da-da? These people are fascinating. Like, I find your story fascinating. And so I'm like, why are we not telling those stories, or who's not, you know, doing those? And so I made a decision that I was like, well, you know, they say write what you know. And I've had a very colorful, wonderful life growing up in Kansas City. And so, and I love where I grew up. I love the people. I love the spirit of the people. I love my family. And I see the beauty in all the complexities. And I just said, let me take a stab at it. I have nothing to lose. So, you know, so that's what made me fall in love with writing. And then I took me about 5 years. And then one of the instructors, I remember asking him, his name is Aaron Haney, and Dylan Southard, who was the dramaturg at the time. And I was like, am I ready to start submitting? You know, because I was very like, I'm not just going to write something and submit it. You know, I'm like, am I ready? Because they cut my plays up and they were like, this is not working. This is working. And so I listened and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from other playwrights who were way better than me. I learned a lot of what not to do. And so I started submitting my pieces to different opportunities. And it just went from there.
When did you first learn about the Latino Theater Company, and why did you want to work with this great Los Angeles theater group?
Well, actually, I've worked with them before because, like I said, I'm an actor, and I was doing a play reading with the Watts Village Theater Company when I came here. And the Watts Village Theater Company at that time, I think it was called Up From the Downs by Lynn Manning. He's no longer with us, but he wrote this play with the Watts Village Theater Company called Up From the Downs. And it was a collaboration with the Latino Theater Company. So some of the actors that are still there today were in this play with me, but I just, you know, and so I would go and I go see a lot of theater. That's another thing. I see a lot of theater. I'm that $10 theater girl, so I can, you know, $10, $20 tickets, so I can go see 4 shows that week instead of a $90 ticket where I'm like, okay, that's once a month. But so when I worked with them, and I was like, these actors are amazing. And I was like, what is this? They have the Latino Theater Company. They were downtown. And so I would just go occasionally and be like, I want to check this play out. You know, it's a play about this. This is a culture that is not familiar to me. And so I went, and the productions that I would see there were amazing. And then I ended up being in that same building again when I started focusing on playwriting. I was like, oh, I'm back in this building again because the Roby Theater Company's on the 3rd floor there. So it was that. No relationship with them, didn't really know anybody personally. And then I got the opportunity, a friend who's an actor, a friend of mine, sent me a submission opportunity for Summer on a Spring that was sponsored by NBC Universal that the Latino Theater Company was holding. So I submitted a piece. They chose it for the reading series. And I got to work with them. And I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but a long, long time ago, I did this play, and I was in there. And they were like, oh, yeah. So I remembered like 1 or 2 people. I didn't know Jose Luis. But I knew a couple of the actors because I had worked with them. And I can remember your face. I might not remember your name, but if I see you on the street 5 years and I'll be like, remember I did this, that's how my brain works. And so sometimes people are like looking at me like, I don't know you, because that was like 8 years ago, or that was 5 years ago. But so they indulged me, but that's kind of my relationship with them that they might not be aware of. But I love the work that they do. And I was, as an actor, just going to see, and as a writer, going to see a lot of plays that were produced there. And then when I got this opportunity, and the experience of Summer on the Spring was such an amazing experience. They were so professional and so very much, it was important for them to really focus on the work and take care of the actors and take care of me and make sure I had what I needed. And then I would say a couple of months later, they brought me in to interview with me, to have a meeting with me, I should say, and said that they were interested in putting my piece on their season. So I was just like, and here we are. I have a lot of stories in me. Like I said, the thing that I like most, I like relationships, and coming from an actor's background, I like peeling layers of people. And so usually it may start with an idea, or I may see something, or I'm inspired by something, and I do a big what if. So I really start from a character base. Like when somebody tells me a story, like there's this piece that I had called Red Ribbons about HIV, and that piece came about because I was doing a benefit for AIDS Life Cycle, trying to raise money for them. And it was suggested, basically we did it like the vagina monologues, but it was just, we had writers from all over, playwrights, submit a monologue about being, HIV, AIDS. And so it was just one night, and we had like maybe 10 different playwrights, 10 different monologues and actors performing, and we sold tickets to raise money and things like that. And during the reception afterwards, a friend of mine was saying, that he knew this kid who was struggling with the secrecy of being a teenager and having HIV. Nobody knew, and his family would, they were religious, and so they didn't want anybody to know. And they were freaking out because he was at the age now where he was going to the prom with another girl in the church, and they were struggling about whether or not we should tell their family and this whole thing, because there's certain things that happen on prom night with teenagers that you think you can control, but you can't, I guess. And so when he told me that, I went home and I thought about that, and so I created this character Solomon just based on that. And then I wrote a monologue for him, just like, what must it be like to have that burden? What must that be like? And so that's how I usually approach. And so then I wrote a whole play. I was like, well, what if he lived in the inner city with all the things that happen in the inner city? What if he didn't have a mother and father? What does that feel like? And so that's usually how I approach. I usually come up with a character first, or a situation that I think I could create a character from, if that makes sense. And then I create the world around that character and the story around that character. And I just kind of let it move me, if that makes sense, because she did not start out to be what it is at all. Not even a little bit. So basically, and I think it's because I'm an actor, so I'm character driven. And then I create the story around the characters that I would like to play or like to see on stage. She is the very first play that I've ever written. So it was a challenge for me. When I went to the Latino Theater Company, and I was just like, I'm coming here because I would write these short plays, but I've never written a full-length play. And I need to learn how to do that. I need to understand what that is. And so I know she originally started out as a play about gender and is a play about gender, really, because I knew these twins, one girl, one boy, and the mother of the twins seemingly favored the boy. She coddled him and she was very harsh on the girl. And I could see that the girl saw that. And I could see that the girl was slowly becoming masculine, or whatever I don't really like to say masculine, but taking on what we considered in society masculine qualities, starting to dress a certain way, starting to act a certain way, starting to, because, you know, as a child, we all want to please our parents. And I was just like, oh, you know, she would rather be anything but female in order to get her mother to love her. That is what I saw. So, and then I started thinking about what it is to be female in this world. I'm a woman. I'm a, you know, and all the things that we go through in society, just being female. And so I was like, what is it to be she female, you know, and it went from there. And it turned into a totally different place, because when the dramaturg was tearing up my work, not tearing it up, he was helping me construct it. I shouldn't say tear it up. And I realized I didn't know what the story was about. I knew that I liked this character, and I kind of said, oh, it's going to be about this, but I didn't have anywhere to go. And I was like, what is this piece about? What do you want to say? And they're still yearning they're still yearning for mother's love and things like that. But I just decided to put her in a very small box, to smother her. So to put her in a small town that didn't have a lot of access to things, put her in a situation where she didn't have a lot of money. All these boxes, all the things that I probably felt as a female, a lot of boxes of saying no, of how you look and how you this, and all those factors that hinder us. And to see if she would strive, to strive and thrive anyway. And what does that mean? And so for me, that's what it ended up being about. And I have a program. I started a program. I volunteer a lot. So I started a free program for teen girls in foster care and low-income teen girls called the Girl Blue Project. And so I was with girls every day in the summer, just listening to them and their stories and the things that are happening in their lives and their insecurities and vulnerabilities, simply because they're female. And so they inspired me as well. I'm sure I will dedicate She to all those girls who came through the program that I had the privilege of mentoring and listening to. So a lot of them are in She. Just the stories alone. And it's just like, what does it mean to be female? 100% female in a male-dominated world, but to focus more on the feelings and the vulnerabilities of that, beyond movements, beyond the suffragist movement, beyond all of those things, but just to pin that down to the emotional effect that it has on us, just being here and waking up every day. There's a line in the play where she's like, she says she wants to grow up, and her best friend says why, and he's like, because being a kid is like being in a caged animal, and being a girl is worse. And so that's why I wrote She. Again, that's how She evolved into what it is. It's a coming of age story, I would say. It's about a 13-year-old girl growing up in a small, very small, like factory town, to a single mother. Her father has passed, and her mother is focused more on men. Her mother is the most beautiful woman in town, and she is just that young, smart. Her personality and who she is too big for the town. And she gets this opportunity to leave. She gets this opportunity to attend this very prestigious boarding school, but she doesn't have the money, and she's concerned that her mother might not even sign for her to go. And it would be a lot for her because she's 13. She'll be 14 as the play, before the play ends, before she goes to the school. And it's a big leap for her to leave that town, everything she knows, and to go out into the world and discover. And she wants to be a writer, a poet mostly. She writes poems. And so when she gets nervous or when things are not going her way, she starts to speak in verse. It's a natural thing for her. And so she wants to be this poet, and she knows that if she wants people all over the world to hear what she has to say, because she feels so stifled in a small town surrounded by people with what she considers small minds. I mean, she's very young and naive. And so it's about her. It's about the spirit of being young and wanting something so bad, and that fire inside of you, and doing whatever you can do within the limitations of youth. Because, you're 13, 14 years old. You can't just say, I'm going to this and I'm going to, you need money. You depend on other people. And so she grows up in that summer. She basically, there's a lot of things that happen to her, and she grows up and she realizes, that dreams cost, I guess. And there's a line, it's like, and sometimes you don't always pay with money, and so it's very much a coming of age, I think, piece, but it's about dreams, and it's about yearning. It connects to, I think, people on a cellular level, because we all want to be fulfilled in, or finding our purpose. And even for me, I didn't really find it until late in life. I thought I did, but I didn't. I think not late, I guess it's not that but I didn't find it at 14. I didn't know, what I wanted to do. I didn't have this desire. I didn't want something as bad as she wanted something. And so that's what it's about. The reason why the Latino Theater Company wanted to do a sneak preview for She was something that we were talking about earlier. Because of COVID, of course, it got, postponed. And so this was supposed to happen in June, and it didn't. We had the budget, we had the actors, we had everything. It didn't because of COVID. And so the Latino Theater Company had called me and was like, we want to kind of do a reading of this on, a virtual reading, and put it out there. And I was like, well, I don't know if that's going to ruin it. And then we talked about it, and I was like, this will be a great sneak preview, because hearing it in this platform is completely different than when you see it in the theater. And I think it's like an appetizer. It will give you a taste of what you are going to see. So in the fact that you only hear, you don't see these characters, for me is exciting to, I guess it's akin to back in the day, I guess, when there was a radio, there was only radio. And, you see those films where people will have the family and they're all sitting by the radio and they're listening to the stories. And like you had said earlier, you create, your imagination just goes wild. What does Davy look like? I wonder what she looks like. How tall is she? What is Bernice? Bernice is supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the world. What does she look like? The way that we wanted it to be more like a radio, because we didn't want the actors to be seen. So it is going to be like that. The director, Imani, she's a New York director, and I'm actually fascinated to see what she's going to do with it, because that was one of the things she was like, I don't like watching these plays where you see the actors in the box like Brady Bunch, or, you know what I mean? And she says it's distracting from the story. And I agree. And because even actually I watched, I didn't watch, I listened to this piece yesterday. They did show the actors, but it was different. They just had each one come on. But I turned it on, I was listening to it, and I was doing certain things, but I was in this piece. It didn't distract. But if I'm sitting at my computer or watching on TV and I see these boxes and I'm starting to look like, oh, I like that painting, or this person, I'm distracted. And I think, so yes, Yes, and we'll see what they're going to do with it. They're editing and doing all those things as we speak. And my part of the process is done. So I'm fascinated to see what comes. But I do know that the focus is, it's geared more toward being a radio play than having the visuals, with some visuals, I think. So to me, it's almost like dangling a carrot. If it works the way we want it to work, I think it's a great way to get people to say, okay, it's like a movie trailer. I know what this movie is about. I know what it's about. I'm interested in seeing what actually happens. I'm interested in seeing these characters, or these, this town, what it looks like in this period, or, so. And I also think that it's a smart way to get people to come back to the theater, because theater is pricey. It's easy to watch Netflix and things like that. But people, if you're bringing your kids, even if the tickets are 30 or 40 bucks, a family, for that's 120. And it's a lot for the average family. People, and so I think it's also a way to let people know what they're getting, because it's nothing worse than going to see a play you don't know anything about. You pay 80, 90 bucks and you leave there going, and I love theater so much that I'm always trying to get people, I'm always introducing people to theater. I'm always like, no, you got to come see it. You'll love it. It's live. You connect. The energy is different from watching a movie. The energy is different from, it's like going to a concert of your favorite artist. And everybody likes stories. Everybody does. And I think that when this happens next year, it'll be something that people are looking forward to because of this quarantine. And I think that people will want to get out. And I think that this might be, people look at it differently, but I think this may be a good thing for theater, because people are going to want to congregate. People are going to want to be social with each other and see other people and experience something amazing and feel again and connect. And I think that's what theater does. And so to get a sneak preview of what you're going to see, and then to actually see it live, to see it come to fruition, to see it manifest in the way, and you're connecting, it's like, oh my God, that's what he looks like. Oh, she looks like my grandmother, or whatever it is. I think it just adds to it. I think it just makes it better. I want the audience to get out of this play a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusion. We are in a time right now that is crazy and divisive. And I've had several readings of this play. And the one thing, and I always sit in the very back and I look at the audience, and all different races, all different ages and backgrounds, because I've done talkbacks after the readings. And I'm fascinated by the fact that so many people say, oh, this is my story. I remember this woman, and she told me, I think she was in her 60s, late 60s, 70s, and she stood up and she was like, this is my life. This is my da 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 da. I'm sitting there going, wow, how, I had a gentleman, he was an actor in his 30s. And he goes, I know the protagonist is a young female. He said, but I relate. He said, because I grew up in a small town and I wanted to do this, and people, didn't believe in me and this and that. And I know what that is. And so I want the audience to get a sense of themselves. I want them to leave inspired. I want them to leave empowered. I want them to see the humor in everyday life, and to see characters that they don't normally see, and hate some of them. Some of them they just, just because of who they are, or maybe even see themselves reflected in the people on stage, regardless of what background they come from, whether they're rich or whether they're poor. We all have a yearning to want to be included. We want to be liked. We want to have a sense of purpose. And I think that's what I want them to leave. I want them to leave, and people who don't go see theater, I want them to say, I want to create a whole new generation of new theater goers as well, when they see and have that experience and see that what live theater or even in this platform, how it can have a great impact, just as good or even more heightened than film and television, even though I love film and television. But I don't think that you can sleep that theater experience. It's just something about it. It's something about it. I mean, it's something about live. You don't know what's going to happen night to night. It's going to be different because it's human beings being human beings, and you're gonna hit it or you're not. But people, I want them to leave there talking, having discussions about this and how it made them feel, and hopefully it's a good thing, or maybe it makes them see themselves in a ways like to realize that they may need to change some things about themselves. And so I've had that situation happen too, where a young girl was like, "That's my mother," and I was just like, "Oh," and her mother was there, and I was like, "I wonder if her mother knows that she sees her as that." And so, maybe that sparked a conversation on the way home. I don't know. But that's what I want it to do, to move, to inspire, to empower, to make people self-aware, and to entertain. At the end of the day, you want to be entertained. I mean, it's nice to be like, "Oh, this happened, and the arc of the story is this, and this protagonist did this, and you need this." But at the end of the day, I want to tell a great story without all sometimes it just, for me, it doesn't need to be that complicated. It's a great story that people connect to, and they walk away feeling some kind of way. They walk away moved. So that's what I would like, even for this platform of it as well. Why must current theater goers watch this? The word must, because I'm kind of free will. I don't think they must, but I think they should. I think they should, because we are all quarantined in a way. And I think that hearing this piece, I think it gives you a sense of being let free. It opens up doors it takes you places without you going anywhere. And that's why I think that this platform is great for that, because at the end of the day, the people who are not happy with the quarantine and feel stuck, this will spark your imagination, and you will go into a whole nother world while still sitting in your living room or at your desk or wherever you watch this. And so that's why I think I think it's good for your soul. And if you must watch it, this is this is something that will do that. I really do believe that. And like I said, we're in a very unprecedented time, I guess. This is so new, this whole situation in a modern world. And so in order to cope, everybody wants to get out, but you can't. This is the best way to get out. This is the best way to get out of the world that feels cramped and crowded. This is the best way to have your imagination take you somewhere, and to listen and to feel and to be empathetic and sympathetic and all those emotions, and to be angry through this platform, through theater. I talk about the Latino Theater Company so much because getting to work with them personally has changed my view of them. It hasn't changed it. I always liked them, but now getting to work with them behind the scenes, and I've had a lot of friends who are playwrights, and I always say, submit your play to the Latino Theater Company, because they are very much into promoting artists. They are very much into protecting the work and elevating the work, and to make it the best that it can be. It's business and it's professional, but at the end of the day, the work is the most important. So the piece is the most important. And they have done, at least this has been my experience, everything that they can to make this the best that it could be. Working with me, getting my permission for things like that. What do you want, Marlowe? And because I'm like, well, if you guys want to, they were like, no, we want to do, what is it that you want? Or with the director, what is it that you want? What is it that you need? So we can elevate this and make it the best production that it could possibly be. And so I am new. This is the first time I'm getting a full-length play produced on a season. So this is all new for me. So this experience is amazing. Just how they include me in everything. And I hear from other playwrights that a lot of people don't even want to deal with the playwrights. They look at them as just like you've written it, get out, let us do the rest. And you know, in theater, that's the difference. The writer has the last say, and a lot of people do not respect that. And so I have a different outlook on things too, because I'm an actor as well. And so I'm like, no, this needs to be this if we're going to do this. And they listen. And that's so important. They listen to the playwright. And it is a great collaboration. And I cannot say enough good things about them. Even the way they handled this, instead of, they were like, we're just going to put it on the new season. This is what we're going to do. I mean, very organized, very professional. I love the energy, and I love actually when I got to meet everybody, including, you know, all the behind the scenes people in the administrative offices. Just, I think what I really like about them is that all the things that the theaters are pledging to do now because of Black Lives Matter, because of inclusion issues and diversity issues, I was like, they've been doing it. They're just under the radar, and they're doing it. Like, you go see that staff, and you see Asian, you see Jewish, you see Latino, of course, you see, you know, and I'm like, I want to be a part of this. So for me, seeing these people work together to create something and build an audience and listening, saying, because I said to them, I was like, the audience is the most important. I said, outreach is the most important to me, because it's fine to have this great play, but if nobody's coming to see it, or the people who really would be moved by this, you know, aren't coming to see it, what, you know, then it's just, you know, what's the point? What's the point? And so to watch them create initiatives and things like that and work on making that happen, and without saying, well, that's going to cost us money, or that's, you know. And so for me, we're like-minded, and I talk to them just like I would talk to a friend, and we discuss things of what is working and what's not working, and they try to make it work. They do what they can to make it work and elevate the piece. And I think that that's why they're so successful. I think that that's why, like I said, I've seen other readings there, and I think the work that they do is stellar. And I'm not saying that because, like I said, I've been going to see plays before they knew who I was. This just makes it better now that I know that they are who they present themselves to be, because I'm working with them on the inside. So I think theater companies like the Latino Theater Company are important, and people should support them because they're telling our stories. Like I said earlier, this is the most inclusive. It says, I always say, don't let the name fool you. They do not just do things about the Chicano culture, the Latino culture. They are more American and represent America, as far as Los Angeles theaters, more than any theater that I have experienced. And so I'll give you a perfect example. I was going to see a reading, and this is right before, maybe it was in February. And I was going to see a reading of, the playwright is young, she's Latina. And so I was like, I want to see this. This sounds interesting. So I go see the reading. Before the reading starts, I go to the bathroom. And I come out of the lobby, and there's this huge, massive group of Chinese Americans I don't know if they were all American, because a lot of them are speaking Chinese, and so I don't know if they were Americans, but they were Chinese. And, you know, they were all piled up going to see this theater, and I'm going downstairs to the bathroom, and I see a huge, you know, a crowd of black men. A lot of them were gay black men, because a couple of people who I knew, I was like, oh, what are you going to see? And then there was another play. There were 3 to 4 plays going on, and it just happened to be, you know, they can all start at the same time. And I stood in that lobby and I just looked, because I was like, this is America. Like, I had that kind of real experience. I was like, what is going on? And I asked the usher, I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, they're going to be doing this play, and they're doing this downstairs, and I was like, this is what theater should be about in Los Angeles, this cultural center where it has large communities of everything, the Filipino community, the da 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 da. And so to see that happening, I saw it, I was in the middle of it, to be seeing these lines of people going to buy tickets or picking up their tickets at will call, all different ages, young people, older people, Asian, black people, white people. And I was just like, damn, you know, and here we are downtown Los Angeles, where 2 doors over, it's a whole homeless encampment. And then, you know, right on the next block more west, they gentrified and have all the hipsters, and all within this kind of 5-block radius. And I think that the Latino Theater Company has always had a pulse on what is happening culturally in Los Angeles. And if you want to be fed, I think that they have a huge buffet of things for you to choose from. And I think that is why the community should support them, because basically they're supporting the community as far as like, we see you, we're telling stories that reflect you. So come support, because it's a give and take. It's not like, oh, you're giving something to them and you're not receiving. You're going to walk away feeling inspired. You're going to walk away saying, oh, did you see that? You're going to walk away saying, oh, it's okay, they're doing this play in Spanish on Wednesday. And so that makes it accessible to me, so I can take my abuelas, you know, I can take my grandparents to go see this, who don't necessarily, or who would struggle to see this play in English. They are making it accessible to them, so they can come out and have a theater experience too. So I don't know any other companies that are doing that, or that have been doing that. And I like it. I'm for it. I think that they are definitely at the forefront, and the leaders of Jose Luis is doing what all the other major theater companies, and I'm not going to say major, this is a major theater company, all the ones who have the money, they have the this, but the content, the quality that the Latino Theater Company puts out goes beyond the budget. And they also show that it does, like, you don't need, it helps if you have those millions and millions of dollars and those huge donors, but when you focus on the art and you focus on the story, and you have your eye on what is happening in the culture, and you choose stories that reflect that culture and not just the Latino culture, then there's something for everybody. You gotta, why would you not want to support that when we literally have an uprising in this city about that, about not being included, about that? And it's like, oh, if you knew that this was already happening, this would kind of, you know, this will kind of soothe that wound a little bit. At least it does for me. But I'm on the inside, so I'm finding out all of these things. Like I said, I'm discovering even more working with them on the inside of what they're doing, and I'm impressed. I support them as a playwright / actor. When I have a little extra, I've given to their they have a youth component where they, you know, bring in these kids, and I'm like, I can donate to that. I want you to grab some kids from East LA or wherever, or people who wouldn't normally have access to see what is going on. You know, it has nothing to do with, I'm not Latina. I'm just a Black girl from Kansas, you know. But, you know, if people want to do what they say they want to do and include, it doesn't matter to me that I've donated to an organization that is focused on bringing in young Latino youth to help empower them and give them this experience. That makes me feel proud that that I was able to have a little part of that. You know what I mean? So it's all inclusion, and it's all diverse, and it's all saying yes. It's all being united and empowering. And if that's where your head is in your life, and you say you want to support that as you march and do those things, this is a good way to support it, by supporting the Latino Theater Company. My name is Marlow Wyatt, and I'm one of the newest playwrights that has the world premiere of She at the Latino Theater Company, coming in 2021, post-COVID. And if you want to be inspired, or get out of quarantine without leaving your home and experiencing a world outside of quarantine, come see, come listen to, click on, watch, follow the Latino Theater Company and listen to my play, She. You'll be very, very glad you did. I promise you that. That's a guarantee.